And we want to make sure that we do some highlights for you and then really provide some time to answer some questions that you may have about reopening. This is just a reminder, this is for lower school. JK is included through 5th grade, and this is just focusing on on-campus return. If you're a distance learner selector, feel free to be here, but we're not going to be answering distance learning questions. We have an orientation for that on Monday. So we'll have a town hall for Monday to talk about distance learning. So feel free to sit in and listen, but we are really going to be focusing on the on-campus students that will be joining us next week first. And then Monday, we will be doing the distance learning. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, that has been disabled. Apologies. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, once again, this is for parents of lower school students, JK through 5th grade, that have selected to return to campus. If you are not one of those parents, you are absolutely welcome, but just know that is the focus of the entire presentation. As we've mentioned before, there are 3 main pillars that we are focused on for this school year and returning with COVID. The number 1 is health and safety for all. That's taken into account in everything we do. So why schedules may be different, why times may be different, why certain classes are offered, what cohorts, all of that is to go back up to the funnel of health and safety for all with COVID. As you know, there are a plethora of very intense protocols and procedures that we take extremely seriously. We want to be as safe as we possibly can. And so all of our decisions are really weighed for health and safety of all, also taking into account academics and learning for our students and social emotional wellness as well. General reminders. So starting on Monday, here's the back to school that is very different that you need to know. Your child needs to bring and wear a clean mask every day. That means that you should have 5. When your child comes home with their mask, it should go into your dirty clothes. They should not be re-wearing their mask every day. They will need to be wearing it from the start of when you pull up to when you pick them up. Obviously, there are moments throughout the day that we have regulated that are safe for them to take it off if they're in an outdoor space, if they're 6 feet apart, during lunch and snack, but a clean mask every day. I have, pardon me for not having it up and ready, we have purchased lanyards. They simply clip onto any mask, and in the back they have a pulley. We will be giving these out on Monday at the orientation. We will attach them. We really encourage you to have your child wear them so that if and when they take their mask off for snack and lunch, the mask simply is still attached to them. It also has a great kind of tie that can make it a little more secure or a little looser. If throughout the day, what we've noticed wearing masks throughout the day, being at work, they loosen, and if they need a little extra support. Pack a healthy morning snack and lunch. There's no hot lunch program. Also, it's like you're packing your kids to go to summer camp. There's no warm up in the microwave. There's, if they need silverware because it's mac and cheese, it needs to feel like you're packing for them to go to camp. And there isn't that utensils, kitchen support. So when you pack your lunch, which I have to tell you is the bane of my existence, I am not a lunch packer, and props to all of you that cut out your fruit and your cheese and shapes. I did that once, literally. My husband can attest. I bought a kit on Amazon and did it once and never again. Plan. What is it? Is your kid just a granola bar kid? Great, but make sure they have everything they need in their lunchbox, including a wet wipe, so that we will have them wash their hands before and wash their hands after, but we're really trying to not have any adult interact with things. So if they need a Go-Gurt, but they can't open it, you need to put kids' scissors in it and teach them how to cut it open, or not pack a Go-Gurt, because we're not going to have adults opening and manhandling food. There's no touch. So it has to be food that they can eat themselves. It's a lot to think about when you know, depending on your kid, what they can do. Label all of your belongings. Remember that we are going to have windows and doors open. That is part of COVID. Even if your kid says they're not cold, they'll be sitting in a classroom. So layer up, really important, and make sure you label everything. You need to bring your school provided devices, not chargers, back. So I'm going to pause right there. If you were given a tablet or a Chromebook, your kid is going to put it in their backpack and bring it back to school with them every day. Your charger stays at home. We thought through kind of this scenario, and we have slides later on about the fact that there could be, at any point in time, we need to call school for, well, there's a lot of reasons we may have to call school. What we know is that when they come to school, we would like them to have their device. We have extra chargers here, so we're not worried about that. They may be more engaged in in-person learning and not need it, but we need that device to be coming home every night. In the case that we would have to switch to distance learning, you have the charger and the device at home. There are other materials, so pencil box, workbook, those materials need to come back to school so that they have them for school. Your individual teachers will kind of sort and put post-it notes if they decide something is better to be stayed at home or come back. But in general rule, put everything we sent home in that blue backpack back in the blue backpack and send them to school. We'll sort it out when we get here. Talk to your child a lot about our COVID protocols and the importance of staying healthy. Remind them, you have to wear your mask. They're going to ask you to wash your hands. You have to wash your hands. Don't touch other kids. Stay away. Don't chew or lick the desk. Listen to your teachers. All of those things. We, of course, are prepared. One of the things that teachers do the best is teach kids routines. That we've got that down, but these are so much about personal hygiene, about the bathroom. Remind them, you're going to go potty at school, you keep your mask on, you wash your hands. Like, we need that conversation to happen at home as well. Michelle is going to talk about our drop off and pickup, aka SFO, arrival and departure. Think of it in the stress of pulling up to SFO Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving.
So thank you, Lauren. Absolutely, what we want to think about is efficiency. So you are going to notice, I know my JK parents figured this out this week because we had to make the transition. We have completely re-envisioned the parking space. Let me tell you, as somebody who's worked at the school for 20 years, I have 2 days in a row now missed the entrance and had to turn around because I am so on autopilot in the morning. So really, really wanted to take some time to highlight this and why. We weren't just trying to add another layer of anarchy to 2020. We really did want to be mindful. But what we will be doing is coming in what has typically been the exit side of the parking lot. You will be going in, there'll be 2 lanes. In drop-off, you may use either lane. We're trying to be as efficient as possible to get students onto campus. As you go through those 2 lanes, there will be in front of the Seacrest main building on the curb a series of temperature checkpoints in each lane where we're able to do those health and wellness checks with students right in the car. Super important that you know is by the time you pull up, we are all now at school officially. And so we need to be, everyone in the car should be wearing a mask. A school administrator will come to take the temperature check right in the vehicle. So we're trying to make it as it's like curbside service. Lauren said, airport, I told a parent the other day, it's like in and out. We're coming to you. You don't have to worry about it. We will take the child. And that way we can keep that staggered drop off and pickup really, really safe and calm and manageable. We need to have that staggered drop off and pickup. We're trying to keep your children safe and making sure that we're adhering to keeping those cohorts separate. So we really appreciate your help and support there to make sure that you familiarize yourself with this information. And it was all sent out also in an email earlier today. We are going to be giving family placards this year for you to keep on your dashboard. Those placards are really helpful because we have administrators, and as you're pulling up, we are going to be able to look and see exactly who your children are and who you're there to pick up. So those will go home with students at their Monday orientation day for K2. That's this Monday, the 14th, for students in grades 3 through 5. That will be the following Monday on the 21st. When your student brings that home, please make sure you put it in your vehicle on the dash. It's just going to, again, help make that process of getting your children to and from school that much more seamless. In terms of the parking lot, be looking. We're going to have lots of administrators outside on the curb at drop-off. So be looking for hand signals. Really important. Again, we're trying to stay in our vehicles. I had a few parents ask about this. Of course, if your child has difficulty with safety seats and you need to assist, absolutely you can. But the goal is that we are minimizing that, getting out of the vehicle as much as possible unless needed. We will be there to assist. It's been running smoothly with 4-year-olds, so I know that the rest of our kids can do it. So I am not worried about it. One important thing to note is because we have very specific drop-off windows. We know some of you are making the trip. I often joke with my sister, she lives in Montera, and sometimes it can take longer to go see her there than it takes me to get, over to San Mateo, and sometimes gauging that traffic flow can be difficult. So we understand that there's oftentimes you're going to arrive to school early. What we're asking families to do is our goal is to not create a backup, is to instead pull over along Main Street, stay to the curb, hang there for a few minutes so that you can arrive in your window. And that way we don't have to worry. Like the airport, it's like that person that always is blocking and sitting in that drop off, that pickup zone forever. And the cops come and move them along because we got to keep the traffic flowing. It's sort of the same analogies. We really want to keep people moving. We know that you have lives and work and other things to rush off to. So we're going to try to make this as seamless as possible. And that will really, really help. So this is probably my most important message of the evening. And I know I've been talking to families about this. We are taking our sense of protocols and protecting ourselves and our health very seriously. So we know as people who work at a school, as educators, my husband is, as many of you know, a fire deputy chief, and we have that first responder mindset of we have to take precautions to make sure we're keeping our health. And we know that our bubble now that we've been doing very well with is about to expand. And in bringing your children on campus who we love, I want to protect their health and well-being more than anything. And so we know that that has now expanded our pod in many ways. Even though your children will be in small cohorts, we are all part of a larger community. I told Lauren when she arrived here, one of the things you're going to absolutely love about this school more than anything else is we have such a strong and vibrant sense of community here. And with community comes that collective sense of responsibility. So you see the heading, it takes a village. It's absolutely true. So first of all, I loved this image that social distance doesn't mean we can't stay connected. I hope that you are sensing through Sunday Waves, through town halls, we are very committed to trying to stay connected with you in whatever way we can. Reach out when you have questions. Reach out if you just want to connect. We are here for you. We want to stay connected. But we also need to take in our communal responsibility of what we do outside school. So we're going to go over and review. Lauren will show you some of the amazing precautions that we have taken and actions we have taken to make sure that your children are safe when they're at school. But we know that only extends to the time they enter and leave our campus. So what we really rely upon is your partnership in doing your part outside of school. Studies have shown time and time again, we've seen the CDC, we've heard Dr. Fauci, most people are not contracting COVID in the workplace, especially when precautions are taken. They're getting it at the block party. We're getting it when we're having social hangouts because that's when we let our guard down. So we really are going to rely upon being able to stay open as a campus is heavily reliant upon you as families also doing your part. So we encourage you to practice many of the same precautionary measures outside of school to make sure that when you're out and about in the community that you're wearing face masks, that we're practicing physical distancing, when we're interacting, that we're teaching kids to hand wash regularly, try to avoid touching our face, all those things that we know we're gonna be doing at school that we can reinforce outside of school. And most importantly, is that we really this year need children to stay home when they are sick. So if your child is having symptoms, if there is things going on, we're going to do the wellness check at the curb and we're going to ask each morning. But it really is a good faith exchange that we are doing as much as we can to be proactive in preventing any sort of spread. We want to keep everyone healthy. The other thing that I want to point out is flu season is coming around as well, and we know that. So just a little plug in. To go get your flu shot. I know one family reached out to me today to say their child was going to be out getting a flu shot. We really encourage you to do that this year. It's just going to be important as we look at health and wellness and look at your child's experience this year to stay as healthy as possible.
Thank you. Yes, one thing to note that popped into my head, definitely invest in a thermometer and take your child's temperature prior to coming to school. The other thing is, as much as we want to, if you have a seat warmer, use that as opposed to a heater, because we had a couple kids last week that ran really high because they were bundled up with the heat blaring on them. It makes it really hard. We then had to take them out of the car, let them cool down. So we're trying to get as best of a read as possible, but all that preventative measure you can do is really critical as well. Next slide. Okay, so as if COVID isn't enough, we also are experiencing California wildfires and PG&E blackouts. It's not funny. This is my coping mechanism by smiling and having that tone in my voice. So we have a AQI monitor. School was canceled today because we were over the 150 mark, and that is deemed very unhealthy, and we would have to have all indoors. There's a lot of different scenarios we've been building for. We have COVID, and we know in COVID all the precautions we need to have. A lot of those include, while we do have air purifiers, also doors and windows open. Eating is really important. It can happen in our gym with one class at a time so that they're very spread out. But we had originally planned on them eating outside because we know the outside is the safest and masks would be off. When you add in the layer of AQI, obviously we have to really adjust. There's an area of AQI that we feel is safe enough for us to operate. That's really in the low hundreds. The reason the chart is this way is because this is the chart that Purple Air uses, and that's the air quality index that we are choosing to use. When the air quality hits 130, that's when I'll start making the decision to not have school open and to, if we possibly to send kids home. A little bit depends on the day and what we're experiencing. Today, I called it because when we woke up in the morning, it was really high and we saw what happened yesterday. There was no recovery from winds changing or anything like that. So the call will be made at 7 a.m. That is the latest we feel possible that we can make the call. We don't want to make it the night before. We know that things change based on the wind. You can be super mad if at 7 a.m. it's 160 and then at noon it's 50. There's no prediction that we can really make. But in COVID, we're really, really limited to being able to have kids safely on campus, follow COVID protocols, and have really dangerous air quality outside. When we're in the 100 to 150, we can do indoors PE, we can have lunch, gym, physical distance, we can use our air purifiers, use our internal doors. Once it gets crawling up there, that's when we have to call it. I'll make the call based on what makes the most sense. If there's 40 minutes left in the day, it takes about 40 minutes for us to get every kid off campus. Remember, if we have to close campus, we will still have to do a staggered pickup based on COVID. So we're balancing multiple things right now. We're balancing California wildfires and the air quality, but also really sticking to our COVID guidelines and protocol. It is critically important that we have your updated information. You should have gotten a voicemail today. Some of you may have gotten a text message, an email from our emergency alert system saying school was closed for JK. We sent it to the whole school to test it. We knew that we only had a small group of 16 kids, but we wanted to test it. The other fun thing is that we are very aware that PG&E has announced that there will be rolling blackouts. If you read the email I sent yesterday, for the month of September, if there is a blackout, we will not have school. That's for the next 2 weeks and some days. We are currently building our blackout scenario in COVID. There's an equity piece that kids would be at home and couldn't access. We also, while the school was able to operate last year with the blackouts, with good air quality. So I also should mention that the only way we can have school with the blackouts is if the AQI is low. However, with COVID, there's a lot more details that we have to put into place to make sure that we can operate safely, adhering to the COVID guidelines with no power. As you can imagine, each of these scenarios has their own complexity. So I don't want to mess around with it. We need the next 2 weeks to fully vet and practice doing school in a blackout with COVID. And that's why if it happens as a rolling blackout in the next 2 weeks, we will not have school. The hope is that by October, we will have sent you all blackout, sent the people at home that are doing distance learning a blackout COVID learning materials, and we would be able to have kids on campus if the AQI is well. There may be lots of questions around that. It's really, really difficult to make the decision to have school or not have school. Adding COVID on top of AQI, on top of blackouts, adds another layer of complexity. It's going to be super frustrating to find out at 7 o'clock your kid doesn't have school. Give us grace. We're doing the best we can to make those really difficult calls to make sure it's safe for everyone. We don't know what the fall brings. I feel very comfortable, not comfortable, but I'm very familiar with California wildfires and high AQI in schools coming from Sonoma for the last 4 years, but never with COVID on top of it. We also need to be very aware it's the beginning of September. We could be having this conversation for the next 4 to 12 weeks. We don't exactly know. So we just want to let you know, we are scenario building, we are planning, we're talking with our faculty, we're doing everything we possibly can. But going back to that first slide, the safety has to be the number one. And that's what's going to happen. So that is that fun slide right there. A few just general things. We've been working since the spring, since before I came here. The leadership team has been working so hard to prepare for fall. There was not an actual full day off this summer. I just want to let you know this leadership team has prepared and planned for on-campus, distance learning, hybrid learning, all of those scenarios throughout the fall. Michelle and I stood in the parking lot very late last night and said, God, it's so hard because we feel like no matter how much we've been prepared, we still have moments like yesterday where it became so dark, we had to turn on the exterior lights of the school with like an override that we never would have anticipated. It's the year of no matter how prepared we are, there's going to be those moments. We feel confident that we've made metrics and that we know enough about how to survive and flourish in a school with all these requirements to make the best decision. We need you to entrust in our decision-making process as we have to navigate new ones every week to every day. Students will have an orientation programming so they fully understand. So on Monday the 14th, you'll see in your email, it is a modified schedule. K through second will come to campus. We're gonna practice that whole SFO arrivals or departures where you're pulling up. We're doing the temperature checking. We get the kids in, they go to their classrooms. They learn all of the routines and rules around COVID. They learn where they wash their hands, where they use the restroom. They have a recess. They learn yard duty with COVID, yard rules. They practice eating snack, distance, washing their hands, and then we're gonna roll out the staggered pickup. It is an orientation day. That afternoon, we will be doing a digital orientation in town hall for those that are doing distance learning. That is why it's not a full day back, because we need to make sure that we are just focusing on procedures so that every child fully understands our protocols for safety. You'll notice you won't notice because you can't come in the building, but your kids can tell you all about all of the new things that are all over our campus. Guidelines, footprints, arrows that have been put into place to make sure that kids can see in a friendly manner where to go, how to walk, all of those kinds of things. We'll make sure once they're here and they're doing it, we take photos and videos so you get to have an internal look of what's going on. Classrooms have been reorganized and arranged to support social distancing. You'll notice there's a lot of stuff that was removed, extra bookcases, things to make as much space as possible for students to come and safely be on campus. There's Noah, our wonderful fourth grade teacher. His classroom, I should note, had not been rearranged. So that's not what the classroom looks like with all those chairs, but that shows a perfect example of how the teacher will be teaching, but also streaming so that there's synchronous kids learning at home while there's kids that are learning in the classroom. We are going to be using our integrated technology to make sure that kids feel connected, whether they're on campus or Zooming in from home. We're adhering to every CDC, state, county, local guidelines we can. As I mentioned, obtaining the waiver means that we had to go through a much more rigorous process to make sure that we are able to safely open following all of those guidelines. We feel really confident that we are continuing to dot our I's and cross our T's. Also know that as new information comes out, we are referencing the experts on our health and wellness committee. We are asking them, this is a new study out of here. How should this apply? Should we adjust? We are doing testing of all of our faculty members. Tomorrow, we've done our full training, but we're doing another training for our lower school faculty in the morning where they're physically walking through the space so we can yet again reiterate all of the practices and protocols. They'll all be getting their COVID rapid test as well. We're feeling really, really confident in the things that we have put into place. We're taking every precaution. There's a look at the temperature check station. So that's what you'll be on the lookout for on Monday. Those that you will pull up to where we will do our health and wellness screening. We're excited. We have had JK kids back on campus. It's been lovely hearing them out at recess, hearing them make that connectivity. Hearing kids in the halls has felt amazing. We're really excited to welcome your kids back, and we're really excited to continue to connect with the kids that are learning from home and to kind of turn the chapter on this next new phase into the school year. I was talking to a group of teachers the other day, and I don't know about you at home. I feel this way about my home. It feels like we're getting ready to start the first day of school again. I'm not sure how many first days of school we'll have this year. There's an excitement about it. There's an anxiety you or your child or your whole family may be feeling about it. There's a huge excitement that teachers have about it, and there's an anxiety they naturally have before the first few days of school coming back as well. You ask any teacher, doesn't matter if they taught for 40 years, the night before the first day of school is butterflies because they care and it means something. The teachers will have that again on Monday. It's another new chapter. So bear with us. Know that with every new start, there will be that learning curve. We will need that patience and that grace. We will be sending out those surveys to gather your results, your feedback, all of those things. We really, really want it, but give us the grace of a few days to get our bearings in kind of this new realm. Okay, questions. I'm going to go over to the Q&A and or the chat, either works. Okay, will there be 2 placards provided? Yes, we can provide another placard for those that need it.
And I just want to, while Lauren looks at questions, I just want to add, I was reflecting on this phenomenon of the first day of school, and here we are into week 3, and I see teachers feeling, it feels like it's been a slow start. And I hear parents reaching out with some anxiety about, oh, when is this happening? When's that happening? And I was reflecting on the experience of Trader Joe's. You know, I love shopping at Trader Joe's. My family, it's been a regular staple for us to swing in and grab a few quick things. And it was usually one of the quickest stops I could make. In the age of COVID, if you haven't shopped at Trader Joe's, it has to be like a planned event. It takes hours, you're lined up for safety. And it just reminds us that everything has been disrupted due to COVID. There's no aspect of life that isn't slowed down or more tedious than it used to be. And so just a reminder to take a deep breath. Everything we do, we are going to be committed to bringing, an amazing, meaningful educational experience to your children, despite everything going on and the chaos that feels like sometimes is happening in the outside world. And we're not going to be able to completely replicate everything all at once that we've always done. The staggered drop off, the staggered pickup, all of the careful architecture of the day and how we're moving students through the day takes more time. So things like explorations, and I want to bring that up in case we are completely committed to our enrichment program. It's such an important part of what we do. And we're going to have to shift enrichment classes each trimester to get everything in that we've always done, because there just isn't enough time, nor is all those transitions possible that we used to have. So I just want to put a little encouragement out there for you to just take a deep breath, and just like everything we do in life, it's a little more complex. It doesn't mean we can't still be meaningful, but it does mean that if you're looking for everything to be exactly like it was before, that's just not going to be possible. So I want to frame expectations so we can be realistic and also feel like we're focusing more on doing it well and doing it right and doing it safely this year than doing it all. So I just want to put a footnote in that. Let's see, are there other questions?
Wow, we did have quite a few questions. So a couple of them back to, and there's some that are in the chat and some that are in the questions. So regarding the AQI, when it starts to climb to 130 is when we will start to make the decision to call school or not. The cutoff is at 150. The 130 mark is if we see it climbing throughout the morning and we're concerned that it's going to hit 150 throughout the day to go home. If we wake up in the morning and it's at 130 and we can kind of get a gauge from past weather patterns and the news, and as much as we can, that we anticipate that that's the spike, the morning spike, we will come to campus. We're really looking at that 150 as a threshold, but know that if you wake up and check Purple Air and we're around 130-ish, that decisions are being made. So the reason we wanted to let you know that is that you know our internal thinking around kind of 130 versus 150. If school is canceled because of AQI, it defaults to distance learning. If school is canceled because of blackouts, obviously that's a little bit different. If school starts on campus and all of a sudden a crazy wind blows in and it starts creeping early enough in the morning that we feel like kids can't really eat, we need to kind of start getting them off campus, and we call you, the school's done for the day. We won't be able to jump into distance learning. So that, I think, hopefully answers the AQI cut off. There's a question here, Michelle, about kids being sick and falling into distance learning. I don't know if we want to make a policy about that or say we're going to kind of handle it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, so absolutely. We've already talked to teachers about the fact that we're going to have to be pretty fluid. As Lauren said, if we have an air quality cancellation that isn't accompanied by a power outage or something, we'll just flow into distance learning. You should have received an email. There's a parallel distance learning schedule for most grades where we have a distance learning cohort. Even if we don't, teachers will email the information for how to Zoom on, and we'll try to create at least a distance learning day so we don't lose a day of instruction. In terms of illness, We know sometimes there may be times in the school year where you have an exposure and a child needs to spend 14 days away from campus just as a precautionary measure. So we need to make fluidity and that ability to transition to distance learning. So absolutely, if your child was sick, but not sick enough, which is I think what you're asking, to be able to actually participate, not be laying on the ground or in their bed, but be able to participate, absolutely. There also is, even under CDC guidelines and under our restrictions, accommodations that we can make for children who have severe allergies. I know my youngest son has allergies every year, and if that your child is in that category, you know, there are some medications and things you can take, but also a doctor's note. We can team with you. So reach out to us. We want to work in conjunction. But really, really the focus is on health and wellness. So absolutely, we can shift into distance learning. We want to do it with some notification to the teachers so we can set the child up for success. There's another quick...
Just to piggyback on that, there's a strategic reason for multiple reasons that we've talked about that Fridays are distance learning. We need to all be emotionally and mentally prepared, mostly emotionally, that at a point in time, we could be back to a shelter in place for the state. There could be blackouts for multiple weeks. There could be really bad AQI. There could be a couple cases of COVID at school. There could be cases not at school, but in our community. We need to know, the reason we're having a device go back and forth, the reason we have a robust distance learning program is not only so kids can distance learn throughout the year for the personal reasons that are important to their family, but also so that we can ensure that we can have continual education despite all odds. Although I will say, if the sky turns orange again and then PG&E cuts off power and AQI is like 500, we may not have school. However, the idea is that we're connecting on Fridays. You're still making sure your kids' devices work. We're practicing so that no matter what, we can get through this school year and have a really as much of a learning and amazing experience as possible, despite very uncertainties that we're going into. So note that there's a reason why Friday is distance. We're keeping sharp on our toes, we're practicing, and it's really important that if your kids come to school Monday through Thursday, they still participate on that Friday in that day.
I see that there's a question about back to school night. Back to school night will be virtual this year, so on Zoom. Just like we can't have parents come on campus, the risk factors of bringing everybody together in an enclosed space just don't make the logistics of that possible. Under our waiver, adults that aren't directly related to the school, that the school has embedded in the health screening, aren't allowed on campus. So it will be a virtual. There'll be more information coming out about that. Right now, it's sort of a save the date, mark your calendars, and we'll look for more information about that next week in anticipation. I saw another question about how often teachers are being tested. So we are having somebody come out every 2 weeks, as Lauren was referencing. We have a 24-hour turnaround. It's really quite amazing. So I was COVID tested, Lauren's been COVID tested. We have somebody coming out again tomorrow. It's not the most pleasant experience for those of you who've experienced it, but they essentially stick a Q-tip up in your brain. But what I was really impressed about is the lab that we're partnering with. It is expedited straight over to Fremont. We're doing it on Fridays, obviously, because that is a day, again, another reason that Friday is valuable for us. We're getting results in 24 hours, so it's really, really helpful. We are making that testing available to any faculty who would like to do it every 2 weeks. We also will have a set rotation of people. So we were advised by both our health and wellness panel, and when we reached out, that actually testing everyone and doing it less frequently was less effective than the testing groups of people every 2 weeks. So that way we're getting a sense of the health and wellness of our community. But we do have a number of faculty who have opted and want to go ahead and get tested every 2 weeks just for our own well-being. So that's something I'm immensely, as an employee of the school, immensely grateful for, because it's bringing my anxiety level down quite a bit. And it was really helpful to go through that experience. So hopefully, also I know a few parents have asked questions about if you travel, if you're out of the area, you can get a COVID test and share the results with us as well. And that could be another way to get back. So testing is becoming a little more accessible, which is great. And that's something that we'll use throughout the year, but I feel extremely grateful for the way the school has been able to set up this partnership for having the ease of testing, and to the amazing parent volunteers we have who are medical professionals who are offering up their time and energy to make this happen for us. We're doing it outdoors. It's really quite incredible. So.
Someone asked about which AQI app we're using. We are using Purple Air, only the outside monitors, not the inside. Any other questions at this time that you want to chat in? Okay, so not all teachers, so it's taking a SWOT sample. That was what was recommended to us by our Health and Wellness Committee, and what was recommended to us by the County of San Mateo. So every 2 weeks, there is a different rotation of the teachers that are being tested, so that we get a SWOT sampling of all of the teachers throughout the course of the cycle. Any other questions? So if the air is over 100, will the classroom windows and doors be left open or closed? So we have special air purifiers that are to help combat COVID and bad smoke particles in the air. So if it is over 100, the exterior door and window will be closed, the interior door will be open, the air purifiers will be on. The air purifiers will be on all the time. We want to keep the windows and doors open as much. That is that area where we're starting to look as it creeps over 100 and that 130, where we're not feeling very confident. As you know, it's very tricky. Yesterday was an extremely nerve-wracking day based on the weather. But the AQI wasn't very high. So there wasn't like a smoke feeling in the air. But then by the end of the evening, when Michelle and I left, which was about, 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, we noticed that our cars were covered with ash. So over the course of the day, it got a lot worse. That's where I'm saying that we're going to have to really monitor this, where we are in that day. If you don't feel comfortable, don't send your child to school. We're going to try to make the best decision possible. I also know that there is a large percentage of you that need Seacrest as your safe childcare, that you need to go to work. So I'm not going to try to pull the switch very quick for every time that there is a smoke day, but we have to just be really aware. Today, for example, it was not safe. It would not have been safe. Some of us were on campus, no window or door was open. I've been alone in my office. Michelle's been in her office. We've been Zooming with each other. And so we're really having to make those decisions morning of what it is. While I want to say, if you wake up and you see this, I'm not going to say that. It's going to be a little bit based on what the pattern has been. Based off of yesterday, I was very confident this morning to make that call. If we start going into a pattern like we saw other mornings where there was a marine layer that pulled it in, and then by like 8 or 9, every day it pulls it out, by the 3rd or 4th day of that, I may not make that call. But if you would like to be part of making that call, I will give you my cell phone and we can chat at between 6 and 7 in the morning and make that call together.
Yeah, and I think Another thing of note, just as it was last year when we went through this, even without COVID, if your child has respiratory issues, you are always welcome to make that call for your kid. And if you reach out to me and let me know, we'll make arrangements to have them Zoom in that day. And that's perfectly fine. And we want to support them. So.
Okay, any last questions? Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited. We're really, really excited. Your kids' teachers are so excited. They're working all together on getting the rooms all ready, like decoratively, and the activities that they'll do. I know the kids are going to be so excited to come back. We've been sharing amazing fun resources like how to teach certain things using your body on the playground and things like that. We really, really are excited to do this. Please help us. Keep your kid home if they have any symptoms or are sick, or if you have any indication that you've been exposed. It's really important that you keep yourselves home and you tell us. Please reinforce the rules with your children at home. Please send your kids to school in a clean mask and fresh new clothes every single day so nothing comes back and forth. Please give your teachers grace, as they have never taught a hybrid where they have some kids online and some kids in front of them. So grace and patience is really important. But most importantly, please read all of the communication. Getting out new information, because it's going to continue to change, is our biggest hurdle right now. I'm kind of preaching to the wrong choir. You're obviously the ones that read the newsletters and come to the town halls, but you know the parent in your class that doesn't and then sends the group chat saying they haven't told us this. Remind them of our newsletters, remind them of our town halls. We need help with making sure that everyone is clued in to what is going on. With that, be safe, have a great night. Michelle, did you have one more thing?
One quick reminder with that note, in case you missed it in the emails that went out, tomorrow there will be no morning meeting for lower school. It's a totally asynchronous day. And that is because we are bringing all of our teachers back to campus and redoing the COVID training we did before school began, and doing it in light of actually walking through the new campus changes we've been able to make in the last few weeks and protocols. So we wanted all of that fresh in their mind to answer all their questions so that they feel 100% ready to welcome your children back on Monday. So we appreciate your understanding and patience in that this is that sort of first week over and over again. We need to make sure the teachers are ready for Monday. So just a reminder, if anybody again messages what's going on, I'm trying the morning meeting link, you can let them know that it's a professional day for teachers. We thought Friday was the least disruptive day to do that. And again, as Lauren said, we really need to make sure we have everything lined up and we're taking the time to communicate with our teachers and be accessible and be available so that we can be 100% ready for your children on Monday.
All right, have a lovely evening, and reach out with any questions that we didn't answer, anything personal about your child or your situation, to myself, Michelle, and we will see you behind a mask as we reach into your cars to take your children's temperature on Monday morning. Look at the chart for your arrival and departure time, and we will see you then. Have a great night.